Hello and welcome. My name is CJ and this is the Sliders Review. This is my third review and I'm here to talk to you about the original timer. The one that was created by Quinn Mallory in his basement after he created the prototype timer. And this timer was used throughout the first, second, and the first half of the third season. The look of the timer was actually a Motorola cell phone, and it was dark gray and black, and it could flip open. The display screen of the timer had a few buttons, a number pad. It told you how many days, minutes, hours, and seconds you had on the Earth. Underneath the display screen of the days, it had a little dial on it so that you can activate the timer. Now, this timer, for most fans, it's their favorite. Mainly it's their favorite because it's the original timer and it's created by Quinn himself, which as the other timers throughout the other seasons weren't created by Quinn. The original timer stored the home coordinates of the original sliders. To activate the timer, one would simply have to either turn the dial pad at the very top or click a button in the middle or the side of the timer. Now, because this was still in its working processes and script, the only person who really uses the dial pad is Quinn, and he mostly does that in the pilot episode and about 2 or 3 other episodes after that. Everyone else, however, they're constantly just clicking a button on the timer to activate the portal. Now, like I said before, this timer had the ability to flip open because it was a cell phone. But the only person who really sees flipping open is, of course, Quinn himself. And every time they would land on another planet, we would always see Quinn flip open the timer, start clicking a bunch of buttons. We have no idea what this is for or the function of it is because it's never explained. Now, the original timer in the first 3 seasons, it opened up 2 different types of wormholes, which also had 2 different sliding tunnels. Now, Quinn's original timer had a geospatial stabilizer of 2-mile radius. So that means every time they slid, they will always end up in San Francisco, which was their hometown. But in the 3rd season, we find out that Logan St. Clair, which is Quinn's female duplicate, she changes their spectrum, and now they have a radius of 400 miles. So now they're popping up always in either San Francisco or LA. Now, the rule of the timer is this. Once you activate the portal and jump through it, you have a certain amount of time in which the timer is starting to count down. Once the timer hits 0, you must slide. If you miss your slide and the portal closes, then you're trapped on that world for 29 years. And the portal stays open for only a minute. Also, in the original pilot, before the home coordinates were lost, Quinn had the ability to set how many minutes or hours or even seconds he wanted to stay on the world. But in the pilot episode, once they all slide to a parallel Earth, there's a huge weather phenomenon that's occurring and it endangers their lives. So the rest of the sliders convince Quinn to activate the portal early. Once he does that, it erases his home coordinates and it causes them to slide at random. So now they don't have the ability to set the time limit on which they want to stay on the Earth. In the 2nd season, entitled Jillian of the Spirits, we get to finally see what's inside the timer. Also, in the 3rd season, in the episode entitled Double Cross, we also get a better look of what the inside of the timer looks like and all the gadgets and microchips. Also, in the 1st season, in the episode Summer of Love, and in the pilot episode, we start to see that the timer itself is starting to burn out. It's taking a lot longer for it to come on, and every time they slide, somehow the timer itself, especially the front of the display screen, is burnt out and it's singed with burn marks and scorches, and it's completely unusable. So we constantly see Quinn always, trying to fix it and repair it, and this leaves pretty much the climax of the episode is, are they going to be able to fix the timer before they slide? In the episode Summer of Love, we start to see the timer in the beginning is burnt, and because of this, once we see them open the first portal, it soon closes, and the only 2 people who slid the first time was Rembrandt and Wade, which leaves the professor and Quinn back on the same Earth that they was on before. After Quinn is able to open the portal a 2nd time, they slide, and this causes the 2 team of sliders to end up on the same Earth but in different locations. And this will happen again in open further down the line, but not as much. And a lot of fans seem to wonder, well, once you open up the portal and you don't slide, then technically you're trapped there for 29 years. But like I said before, this is probably due to the fact that the portal didn't remain open for a minute and it closed within seconds. So technically, once they reopened it the second time, it was still locked on the coordinates on which Wade and Remy slid. When you activate the original timer, a grayish black squiggly line emerges from the timer and goes out into normal space. Then in the first two seasons, it would somehow squeeze and compress the space in which it consumed. And once the portal opened, the actual atmosphere around the portal will be kind of like this wavy, watery-like effect. Now, the actual portal in those first three seasons resembled that of a circular whirlpool, and it was blue for the most part. But it had like grayish and black and white lines, but for the most part of the portal, it was blue. And the tunnel would be like, it would be kind of like this bumpy, clumpy, greenish, sometimes purple background with little white wave lines and sparkly lights and dust. With the original timer, we also see that it could be susceptible to high electrical magnetic pulse signals. And in Invasion, we see our very first villain, which are the Cro-Mags. And the Cro-Mags are a race of humans that are ape-like people. And they have flying ships, and they also can travel through parallel dimensions. Now, their sliding equipment is highly more advanced than that of Quinn's, and so advanced that the signals that their ships emulate can scramble the frequency of the timer. We also see in that episode that the timer can actually act as a weapon and can take down a fully functional Cro-Mag ship. In the episode Electronic Twister Acid Test, in that episode, man has the ability to create tornadoes, but not just normal tornadoes, they're kind of like electrical tornadoes. So these electrical twisters aren't really the thing that's affecting the timer, but it's the atmosphere that's charged with all these electrical magnetic particles. And once they get away from the disturbance that's causing the timer to act up, then the timer starts to act normal again. Now, in the episode entitled Jillian of the Spirits, we see that as the sliders are starting to slide from one world, Quinn is the last person to slide, and there a huge storm is happening. And when a lightning bolt hits the portal at the very second in which Quinn is about to slide, we see that when he ends up on the other world, that his particles are somewhat invisible and nobody can see him except for animals and this one person named Jillian. Now, you might be wondering what happened to Quinn himself and nobody can see him. Well, he is on that Earth, but he's also in a parallel plane known as the astral plane. Well, when the portal activates, it actually illuminates his body to where people can see him, but they still can't touch him. And he is still able to pass through like inanimate objects. And it takes about a minute or so before his portal to open up on the astral plane so he can slide. During the course of the first three seasons, the timers get stolen quite a bit. In fact, it gets stolen a number of 8 times. In the episode As Time Goes By, in that episode, we see the sliders slide to several different Earths in just one episode. On one of the very last Earths that they slide on, we see that time has an effect on the timer, in which the sliders are living in the reverse of everybody else's forward on that Earth. And because of that, the timer itself is no longer counting down, but now it's counting up. The last appearance we see of the timer is actually in the episode Slide Like an Egyptian. In that episode, the sliders assume that Quinn is dead. And once the timer hits 0, the rest of the sliders not to slide. And when the portal closes, they're now trapped there for 29 years, and the timer no longer works. And there you have it. That's the whole history of the original timer. Stay tuned next time when I explain the Egyptian timer. Alright, peace out. Bye.